Stress may not be the cause of every disease, but it definitely makes everything worse.
Introducing the Paramena Bliss Podcast, a show dedicated to unraveling the mysteries of achieving optimal health naturally as you transition into perimenopause and menopause. Get ready to join your host, Dr. Seth Yates, an experienced naturopathic doctor, acupuncturist, and kinesiologist, as he shares his wealth of knowledge acquired from over 40,000 patient visits and 15 years in working with perimenopausal females. Welcome to the Paramena Bliss Podcast.
Hey, this is Doc Yates. Welcome to the Paramena Bliss Podcast, and today we want to talk about dealing with stress. Now, stress is in all of our lives to varying degrees, and the thing is that there's two ways to look at stress. And when I say stress, it's more about dealing with how much stress is coming in versus how much stress can you actually tolerate. They both affect you. Think of it as like a teeter-totter. The amount of stress that's coming in versus how much can you tolerate, and if you're balanced, you can tolerate it, all the better. Now, eventually, if there's enough stress coming in, even if you can't, think of that teeter-totter, then too much weight on either side is just going to snap in half. You're busted. But the goal would be obviously to have that teeter-totter completely balanced by one, trying to reduce the amount of stress coming in and try to increase the amount of stress that you can tolerate. Because without a doubt, as you get older and you take on more things and more projects and more responsibility, with that added responsibility from work, from kids, from taking care of kids and parents, and then your own things that arise with aging, more stress will be coming in. You need to increase your ability to handle that. And by increasing the skills, really increasing the skills that you have to handle these stressors. But let's kind of break into it. This is a very, we're not going to be going through a lot of direct points in this one. It's just me kind of just processing this after having worked with several clients on this today. So you've got to think about, when I speak with clients, if we're going to think about what's the root cause, you want to think about how do you handle the root cause of the stressors coming in. So let's talk about the big stressors that I have clients report on a regular basis. So you've got, generally speaking, there's family stress and then there's work stress. Those are the two big ones. Now, within family, you've got the stress from a spouse, from parents, from kids, siblings, all of those stressors. And then within work stress, that's where we're going to lump in, is it problems with your coworkers? Is it problems with the clients or customers? Or is it linked in with financial stress? And we're going to finances kind of link in between both of those because it's depending on your family situation and your work situation. But I'm going to link that one under work stress. So you've got family and work as the two big things. And that's really what composes the majority of your day. Like you spend probably half your day at work and the other half is at home. Now, for each one of those things, you can find professionals to help you with that. So if it's, for instance, if it's marital stress, then probably getting a marriage counselor and just doing more discussion with your spouse, that is getting to the root of the problem. So you want to make sure that you're not just being like, oh, I want to start doing more exercise or yoga. No, your main stress is your marriage. Get to the root of that problem. If it's your kids, depending on the age, you're going to have to affect how you're working with your kids, raising your kids, dealing with your kids, or getting help, whether it means getting a counselor for your kids, getting a tutor for your kids, finding a different coach for your kids. From a work standpoint, it's having more open, with all of them, it's more open communication. When in doubt, you're always trying to find more open communication, but doing it in an extremely tactful way. And there's so many, before you have these conversations, speaking with a professional or doing more research on your own, like in terms of, If you want to understand people more before you have these conversations, you need to understand what makes that person tick. You can look at how the reward centers work. You can look at books like, say, like the 5 love languages of, and you can deal with that for family or loved ones. Or then there's the 5 communication languages of the workplace. You can find out what type of temperaments that someone has. The books, there's different books on, Charisma, the book Charisma in the Workplace. You need to understand what makes these people tick, and you might be communicating in a way that works perfect for you, but it doesn't work for them. It's like think of it like a food sensitivity. For some people, eggs are really good food. For other people, it makes them very sick. We're dealing with the same food, but we're getting 2 totally different responses. It's the same thing with communication. You are not supposed to communicate with someone what's best for you. You need to communicate with them in a way that's best for them, which takes a little bit more of detective work and training and resources for you to master that. It is a full skill on its own, and I suggest that you, whatever your problems are, I think doing more homework into communication will be very helpful for you. Now, the next thing is the adaptability side of things. If you can reduce the amount of stress coming in, and you can work with those people that are being problematic with you and improve your own communication styles to reduce stress, how do you make it so that you can handle more stress? Because other things are going to happen that are completely out of your control, and they can still be very stressful. You need to improve your adaptability for that. So let's talk about that. Number 1, sleep. If your sleep sucks, you can't handle anything. And since this is the Perimental Bliss podcast, my listeners know better than anyone that when your sleep is off, everything is off. So we need to dial in the sleep, in which case for most of my listeners, it means you need to dial in that progesterone. So we dial in the progesterone to dial in the sleep, and if we need to add any natural sleep aids along with that, do that too. The next thing is that for the accumulated stress, because stress, you want to think of it as like layers of clothing. Imagine your boiling point of too much stress, but every stressor that comes on is like putting on another sweater, and then another sweater, and another sweater, until it's not even that hot out. There's not even that much stress, but you feel like you're boiling inside. You're going to blow your top. Like, think of those cartoons when the person gets so mad and so hot, it's like they're like a boiling kettle. That's what the accumulation of stress does. 2 things that work. There's a few things that work really good for removing those layers of stress. Number 1 is acupuncture. It removes those layers of stress so quickly. Another one, exercise is very helpful, and certain types of exercises are better than others. So one has to be an exercise that you enjoy, but generally speaking, yoga is really good for removing those layers of stress. So you need to make sure you're getting the exercise done. If you can have a way of getting access to acupuncture, that would be fantastic. Now, we've dealt with the sleep. We've talked about the acupuncture and the exercise. There are herbal therapies that you can use that help the body handle stress. And I've spoken to this before, but they have these tests they used to do in animal studies. And I hope they don't do them anymore because it sounds like a very 70s kind of thing. But they would basically take animals, mice, put them in buckets of water, and have them swim until they basically gave out and were about to drown. They would just totally the swim test, the swim till you drop test. Then at the last second, they'd scoop these little mice out and save them. I hope that's the children's version, the Disney version. I hope that's how the test ended. Then they would redo the test with mice that they had fed certain herbs, specifically things like Siberian ginseng, and then you got things like holy basil or ashwagandha. All of these herbs that help the body handle stress. And they're adaptogens, so it basically helps you take on more. You can handle more. You can improve your endurance. Then they'd have these same mice, or a different set of mice, after they were feeding them these herbs for a period of time. They'd do that same test and see how much longer could they hold out, how much more stress could they handle, how much longer could they swim before they drop. And in the majority of the cases, they would go a lot longer. That's what you want to use. You want to use these types of herbs in your regular daily life and on a regular basis so that you can handle these stressors, so that your stress is not having such a negative physiological impact on your body. That is absolutely key. And lastly, like I said, Perimental Bliss Podcast, hormones. When your hormones are off, everything's off. They're so powerful. Balance your hormones, balance your progesterone levels, and that will make it so you can handle so much more. So, I hope this information was helpful. If you're going through a lot of stress right now, don't be silent about it. Reach out, open the lines of communication, reach out to professionals that can help. You start using these tools that I've mentioned and start taking steps towards getting better every day. I hope this was helpful. I'm Doc Yates on my drive home from work, and I'm signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to the Paramena Bliss Podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and visit paramenobliss.com for more valuable information on how you can thrive during your transition through perimenopause. Join our community of like-minded women who are dedicated to achieving optimal health naturally, and stay up to date with the latest tips, tricks, and advice from Dr. Seth Yates. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Paramena Bliss Podcast.